Hello and welcome to Organic Edible Garden. The moon is now in the last quarter, and in the gardening calendar that's a great time to either take it easy or do some maintenance on the garden. And being spring, it's going to be maintenance. We're going to look at acidifying and mulching our blueberry beds and breaking up a rhubarb crown and transplanting them into another bed. The blueberries are now coming into bud. Now these plants like an acidic soil of about 4.2, so we're going to add some acidic regulators to the soil, and also we're going to mulch it heavily because these plants also like wet feet. They like the sort of boggy, swampy sort of areas, and in summer it can dry out really quickly. The first thing we're going to add is some flowers of sulphur. The reason we're going to do this is because it will acidify the soil, and the soil does need more sulphur, but a little of this goes a long way. Probably one handful will easily do a bed like this, and the rest can be used for powdery mildew control for the zucchinis over summer. You can always add more flowers of sulphur, but it's best just to start with a little bit and see how the plants go. And after a couple of months you can do a pH test and see if you need any more. And the next thing will help with our acidity for coffee grounds. This is such a good resource that's just wasted. It'll also help keep the moisture in the soil. The next thing we're going to go and do is put our chicken poo on. The chicken poo's got lots of carbon in it from the wood shavings, which will help maintain the moisture in the soil. But the chicken poo itself will give it a good nitrogen boost, which it needs at this time of the year. The reason we're putting on rock dust is, why wouldn't we? It's got to make our vegetables or our fruit nutrient dense, and that'll ward off things like pests and diseases anyway. And the final additive I'm going to put on is sphagnum moss. I'm using this instead of peat moss because it's a renewable resource. This will just help hold the moisture in the ground. All we have to do now is water this in, and then when it starts to flower and get fruit on it, we will have to go and put stakes in and net it for the birds. The next job we're going to do is we're going to replant some of our rhubarb crowns. These guys have been in the bed for 5 years now, and they've come to the end. We're still going to use them this year by putting some chicken manure and maybe some rock dust around them to get one more year out, but we want to transfer some of these now so by next year I can start using the new bed. It's really easy to do, but it's good to be done on this moon. So what we have to do first is we've got to pull out the leaves of one of the plants. We're taking all the leaves off because all we really want is a crown, and if we're transplanting it, the leaves will take a lot of energy from that crown to grow, so they're all coming off. What I want to do is try and leave some of these small new leaves here. They'll be the beginning of the new plant. And one plant like this, I can make into 8 or 10 new plants just by dividing up the crowns. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to dig it up. It's going to have massive roots, but I can chop those off. You can see now they're starting to divide. So a piece like this, we can get rid of that one. Now with this crown, the root is far too long to be planted, and the roots are really soft, so I can just chop it off with a spade. Now that's ready to be planted as a new plant. Here's a second crown that we can go and put in, and I'll just get to divide this one into about 3 pieces, depending where the crowns are. It might be too tough, so I can just use my spade to go through it. Here's another piece for us. And don't worry if the root looks soft like this, all the crowns will come away and form new roots. This bed's really well dug over, and I'm going to stick about 5 or 6 crowns in a bed this size. For the average family, probably only 2 plants are enough, but because rhubarb doesn't like to share the bed with other plants, it's often best just to have a bed only of rhubarb. The leaves of the rhubarb have got oxalic acid and will have an effect of other plants growing nearby. Also, they're really gross feeders, and so they rob all the nutrients of their plants nearby. We're going to dig some holes for our crowns. But the important thing whenever planting a rhubarb crown or even a plant from the garden centre, you've got to make sure that crown is actually above the soil level. If it's not, and we have a wet season and the ground stays wet for long periods, the crowns can actually rot. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it above the ground level, and as the soil sinks down, it'll actually pull the plants with it. But the vital piece is not getting this to touch the soil. The last thing we're going to add is some chicken manure. And the reason we're doing this is because this bed's pretty much depleted of nutrients. And with the new leaf growth coming this spring, it's going to need that nitrogen boost. If you don't have chicken manure, sheep pellets or any animal manure are great. It's really important to give these guys a good watering in. And if it's dry over the next week, give them another good watering in a couple of days' time. It's really important for the first couple of weeks that they just don't dry out at all.